Yeah. Are you living your life authentically and all out? Is fear holding you back in an important area of your life? Are you afraid to move forward because others may judge you? Would you like some tips and strategies to move beyond your fear and step into your best authentic life? If so, then today's show is for you. Our guest will be talking about how to tap into your own inner guidance to move through fear or beyond fear and live authentically. He will share his life journey, how he came to be all he is today, and he'll be sharing actionable tips to move beyond your fear and live an amazing life. So, as you know, as I like to say, get your pen and pad ready. You're going to take some notes. Buckle up. We're getting ready to take a ride in the quantum field and possibly way beyond. Buckle up. I wouldn't want you to go flying off to another dimension right before Valentine's. Or, just maybe, that's exactly what you need. Welcome to the People and Pet Show. Welcome to the People and Pet Show. I'm so grateful and honored that you're with us today. And I'm so grateful and honored to have our special guest, Case Erickson. Case, how are you today?
And Skitty. Do you see Skitty?
Oh, yeah. Tell me about your cat.
She's making an appearance.
Oh, good. Did you usually like to jump on your calls like this?
Cats do what they want. So
yeah.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm interested to see where this conversation will lead.
Yeah, we were talking about just right before the show a little bit, and I speak for myself, the importance of spontaneity, because originally we were at the show scheduled and we thought we needed to reschedule and we could schedule it today. So I just kind of jumped into the moment. And I think that's important for all of us, to, like I said, live our lives more authentically, but also more spontaneously. And I'm going to put myself in that category. A lot of my life, I've tended to be a little bit more structured. I like to know where things are going. And the truth is, as we all know, lots of times the best moments happen when it's just spontaneous and that we go with the flow.
Yes, I'm a big flow advocate for sure.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is, to me, the connect, like authenticity and spontaneity are synonymous. Because I feel like that is our whole, we've been structured to not trust ourselves. Yep. Or I will say not structured, programmed to not trust ourselves. At some point, we come out as babies and we're not like, when we're cold, we cry. When we're, comforted, we're not. You know what I mean? There's these things that we just express ourselves naturally as humans. And then we're programmed in different functionalities, whether that's a religious programming or some other kind of dogmatic programming, or our parents or whatever says, don't say that, don't be that. A lot of our religious programming that says, there's a sin nature, like who we are is like that we're fundamentally flawed, that's been my journey. Yeah. Has been a lot of, this don't trust yourself. You're not trustworthy. Consult Sky Grandpa or a book. Yeah. And so coming out, so the impact of that is not being spontaneous, being in the space of like, ooh, is that the right thing to say? Or, ooh, do I say this? Or, ooh, maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe there's a wrong way, like not trusting ourselves, like not trusting that inner guidance system, that emotional guidance system, that feeling guidance system, that is our energy, that is our spontaneity, that is the flow of the universe. I mean, the universe on a natural plane, if we look at nature on the whole, there's no boss, there's no manager. It's a process. So tapping into the process of nature that exists apart from a boss, as energetic beings, as human beings, like that is what we are evolving towards. And so stepping into that, I appreciate the practice that you and I are both in today in this show, because, as you know, and for whoever's watching, like there was this whole thing with some other clients and having to go there's a short limited time that I had to go do something at a city office, and then they had to go do something. And then I was like, I can't do this. And then it was like literally an hour and a half ago where I was like, oh no, I can't make next Tuesday. I need to do today. So let's just go. Let's just do. And so, having it as a daily practice as well, to be with the flow, and like whatever comes up is whatever comes up. And there's no, this is perfect, like the way that it is. And I had set an intention back, a long time ago when we set this, and I was really looking forward to it because of the things that I had to go through this past weekend were very tumultuous and very I'm like, you know what? No, I'm putting myself in the future, and I'm putting myself having a conversation with Mark. So, I mean, that intention that I set for myself was stronger than the intention of getting the city stuff done, whatever the city stuff needed to get done.
Yeah.
And so, it's all perfect, and it's all just the flow is all where it's at. So, I mean, I think the spontaneity is authenticity, because who we are beings that are a process of trusting ourselves as connected to all of the energy that is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I know in your book, which I was going to mention the title, can you show the viewers the book? It's coming out by going in.
Coming out by going in. Yes. Yeah. The freedom to be yourself.
Freedom to be yourself. Absolutely. So I know in this book, you share many points in your journey to be where you were initially to where you are today, and where you continue to evolve. All of us continue to evolve. So what we're connecting it back to the spontaneity and flow, what were some of those key pivotal moments in moving you along your journey?
Gosh, it's been key pivotal moments. Each one of the chapters kind of breaks down different stories. It's different stories in my life. And so it starts from the heaven and hell story that I received from my mother. And my mother was doing her best. I feel like most parents do their best.
Sure.
Most parents don't wake up every morning like, I'm going to screw up my kid. Yeah. And so, from her perspective, she definitely, believed the story that in the constructs of heaven and hell as literal places, and wanted to make sure that her child was safe from that literal place.
Yeah.
And so she shared with me the heaven and hell story, and good news, Jesus died, and you don't have to go to heaven if you believe this part. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I need to believe that part. Like, I didn't have the cognitive reasoning capacity to, reason whether or not I really wanted to make that choice. I made a choice to believe her story based out of fear because I was 8, like, of course I'm going to believe that. So yeah. Deconstructing that as an adult in the process a lot, I grew up evangelical and with the whole private school and then private college and all the things. Jerry Falwell, my mom worked for Pat Robertson. I mean, I have a lot of narrative, a lot of religious narrative in my coming out. And so that's what a lot of I talk to people about is that thread of coming out of religion. That's kind of why I've got the little cross here, because coming out is not about a sexual orientation thing. And it's really not even about a religious thing. Like, I think that we all have closets to come out of. We all have this fear-based construct to move past and to come out. So whether that's however, just being yourself, saying what's there for you to say, and all the things. So the first thing that I talk about is that heaven and hell concept, and how I came out of that and reframed it as a metaphor, as, the Bible, let's maybe not throw out the whole, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Maybe, the Bible also says the kingdom of heaven is within. And what would it look like if heaven and hell were a metaphor for my present reality as a choice? So in that construct of heaven and hell, I was still living in fear, even though I had adopted the salvation story to a certain degree, I still felt like under scrutiny, under judgment. Am I performing? Am I enough? Am I, so it still ran the current of my way of being. So I'm like, how can I choose to be more myself, be more authentic to who I am as a being of unconditional love. How can I love this moment and move past the fear and love my story, love all of it. Love that I got this story of fear, this fear-based program. So it illustrates what I call a component of the gift of contrast. So, knowing what we don't want, or knowing what we want because we experience what we don't want. And so it's like, okay, I know that I don't want that construct of fear. I know I don't want that construct of heaven and hell as a reality. And I know that I can create my own hell right here and right now with my choice to suffer about whatever it is the suffering is. It could be suffering about my past, suffering that I got the literal interpretation. It doesn't matter where I can choose, what I can choose to suffer about. Or I can choose to let go and stop resisting and accept that, okay, yes, I received this story. And yes, I received where's the good side of this coin? Where, it's all one coin. It's all one thing. And so that's where it's like, okay, now it's like an acceptance practice. And so that was definitely the first, and I didn't have the awareness of it when I was 8 or 9. I didn't really get the awareness of it until I started the practice of authenticity and integrity, coming into integrity, into alignment with who I am and what components of my life. When I started the practice of, with Landmark Education. Are you familiar with Landmark?
Yes, I am. Go ahead and tell the viewers those that aren't, a little bit more about Landmark, just in a nutshell.
Oh, yeah. So it's, their whole thing is about integrity. And when something's not working in your life, it just means you're out of integrity with some other component. And so I started that practice and really came out of the closet for good. And decided to get divorced and all that things about 8 years ago when I started the work with them. 3 day, it's like a 3 or 4 day immersive program platform. And then I think you get a once a week class, a 3-hour class for like 10 weeks. And so it wasn't 12 in like and they do different seminars. It's personal professional development. And so they don't really I incorporate now a spiritual component in terms of, this conversation around faith and trust and surrender. They don't necessarily take that on as a construct. I do. I take on constructs of energetic, our energetic bodies, our physicality, in terms of like, how am I moving? How am I connected with my breath and yoga? And how does that impact my overall way of being? And I approach, life in a little bit more holistic manner. Their focus is more on a little bit of the brain, a lot of our languaging. So I learned a lot of language tools and techniques. And so anyway, I came out and chose to start living in integrity or living authentically through the practices that I was doing in that program. And it was about 2 years ago that I started to really dissect a lot of my past with a lot of the programs and the spiritual retreats and all the things that I went on and did. So 27-minute answer to your question of that pivotal moment was in reflecting other pivotal moments in my life and reframing them. And, when you talk about quantum theory, talk about quantum physics, talk about time being nonlinear, really allowing myself through meditation practice, through breathwork practice, to go back to those times and comfort myself, allow myself to tell myself a different version of the story. Not a, hey, be afraid, but hey, your mom loves you. Hey, your mom's trying to keep you safe. Hey, how can you keep yourself safe now? And so, and hey, this is all perfect and this is all good. And there's, how to overcome and bring love into that fear-based platform or that fear-based foundation and really dissolve the negative impact that story had on my life. Meaning that negative impact that I was fundamentally flawed, or there was something wrong with me, or I needed to do something to make up for the fact that I was fundamentally flawed. So, I tell that story in chapter 1, the heaven and hell, the gift of contrast, and how we can break that down in an actual practice. So I give practices for each one of the chapters. So each one of the chapters tells different components of that gift of contrast, whether that's heaven and hell, life, death, forgiveness versus resentment, all of these things in our life that we kind of adapt into thinking that there's a plurality when there's really not a plurality. So, I mean, I believe that the only sin is believing that we're separate. And so when we create this duality and plurality, we're actually creating a separation. And so, you know, coming into the fullness and the oneness of just dropping the resistance to any of it and the practices that we can do for that. So each one of the chapters also has practices. So whether that's the meditation practice, a bowl burning practice, you know, write down your resentments and burn them or tear them or flush them or whatever. A nature practice, getting out into nature, a silence practice, a fasting practice. You know, there's 24 of them.
Yeah.
And so they're really about bringing our awareness, our physicality, and doing the work of moving past our old stories, paradigms, and programs that keep us trapped, limited, and small.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, obviously, there's a lot you said there, and what I especially appreciate, you highlighted the importance that we all have choice at every moment.
Yes,
about how we see our past, our present, our future, and our power, as many people have said, is in the now. That we choose, you know, how we're gonna, you know, either make our life as enjoyable and possible as possible, even if we have some external circumstances that are challenging, or to, you know, create our own hell here on earth.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's really great. Yeah. So so tell me a little bit. I mean, in the overview I put about who you are, you've had a very diverse professional background. You know, from foodpreneur, you're restaurateur. You've done TedX talks. You know, you've had a very rich and multifaceted life. What have been some of the most rewarding strands of that life?
Oh my gosh. Highlights, definitely a couple of them. The first thing that comes to mind was manifesting my trip to Hawaii. And Hawaii is special to me because I was born there.
Yeah.
And I lived there for the first 4 years of my life. And then my father was in the Marines. And so he actually quit the Marines to go in to be a pastor at Dallas Baptist Theological Seminary. So he basically was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines who wanted to be a Southern Baptist preacher. Whoa. And so that gives you a little perspective in the challenges that I had growing up a queer kid.
Yeah.
But anyway, I always felt an affinity to Hawaii and to the island. And I did not make it back until my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
And I made a birthday card on my 39th birthday. My 39th birthday, it wasn't a bad birthday. It was pretty chill, but I was really tired and I just, you know, was going to go do something. I was going to go to a landmark class. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do anything. I just want to do nothing. And I want to give myself rest, you know, like, how about that? And so I gave myself rest. I went to the grocery store and I was getting a pint of ice cream and a bottle of wine. I since have quit alcohol, but at the time, I was like, I'm gonna have some wine and ice cream. And so I bought myself a card for the following year, understanding that birthdays mark the end of the year, the end of, like, I had completed 39 years. And I was starting my 40th. I was on my 40th. And so, you know, these pivotal birthdays, you know, 20, 30, 40, 21, and then 30, and then 40, and then 50, and then all the things, I just think they impact our mindset and they're just great. I love them. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, this is how I want to celebrate my 40th birthday. I wanted to go back to Hawaii for the longest time. I'm like, I'm going to be in Hawaii come hell or high water. Yeah. I'm going to celebrate it. And I'm gonna have this card. And so I bought myself a card for the following year, and I wrote in that, congratulations, you made it to Hawaii. And, you know, I wrote some other things, you know, jumping off the waterfall with your soulmate. I actually wrote with your soulmate. And then, you know, come to find out, you know, this whole construct and journey of mine has been about aligning myself with myself and being my own soulmate and giving myself that love and that worthiness and all the other things. And so while I wrote that, on my 39th birthday for my 4th, like, kind of thinking that it was going to be with somebody. I actually did meet one of my soulmates. I now believe that we have many soulmates, and we're all fractals and reflections of each other. And like, you're my soulmate right now, and my cat's my soulmate.
Yeah,
and,
no, he's saying,
you know, we're all one and together in this. And there's like, anyway, I did, and that's another chapter. It's called Bliss and the Big Kahuna. About my experience in Hawaii and just coming to that space of like, just relief, you know, and just all of the things. And I made it and I did it and it was magical. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to go back. I look forward to going back. I don't yet have a ticket to go back. And I intend on moving back once my children are graduated from high school. Now it's going to be a while. I have an 8th grader and a 4th grader. But it's definitely home, you know, growing up military and being, you know, moving all over. And then my parents divorced, and then my father passed away, and I didn't, you know, they all live in different houses, and I've moved a ton of times. Like, I don't necessarily have that feeling of home. There's not a home place. There's not a house home place. And so when I went back to Hawaii for the first time in, you know, 36 years, my cells literally felt alive, like, and relieved at the same time. It was like life meets rest. And I mean, certainly the island. Have you been to Hawaii?
I've never been. Everyone says you got to go, and I know tons of healers that they go and they never leave. They go, I'm gonna make it here.
Put it on your list too. Okay. I mean, like, it's like, you know, you've got the majesty of the ocean and the mountains, and everything is luscious and life and fresh and vibrant and colorful, and there's just so much life. Definitely, I was just like, so it was definitely worth doing what I needed to do to get there. Definitely one of my highlights. And it's not even like, you know, I could say TedX, or I could say opening restaurants, or I could say pulling off this side or the other, but you know, that just getting there was an accomplishment in and of itself. The things that I had to do, the things that manifested as a result to get me there. Like, someone hired me to speak at their health and wellness conference, and they were going to fly me from, you know, Austin to Dallas. And I was like, one way. And I'm like, how about you fly? And I flew myself. I can't remember. I'm like, you're going to pay for 2 flights or 2 legs. And so I got them to pay for Austin to LA. I can't remember. They paid from like LA to Dallas, and then Dallas back to Austin. And then I paid from Austin to LA, because you can go from Austin to LA for pretty cheap one way. Yeah. And then a round trip ticket from LA to Hawaii is pretty cheap as well. And so it's like, I got to Hawaii, like, it just, the whole thing was amazing. And
everything fell into place, aligned.
Crashed at my friend's condo and like Airbnb, and like, it was just, you know, the whole thing was, if you want to manifest whatever you want to manifest, you can make it happen. And the universe conspires to support you, because you are the universe. Like, your belief and your intention and your action, your inspired action, and your, you know, faith, trust, surrender, all of that stuff, getting up and doing the thing. Like, okay, I'm going to get up and do the thing. And, you know, to answer your question, I've done a lot of things. I've got restaurant, you know, experience, restaurant consulting, coaching, business coaching, event production. You know, I do a lot of the things, and I'm very, you know, multifaceted. I appreciate that adjective, because I am a very entrepreneurial and, you know, a man of many talents. And so I've got a lot of projects, and I just kind of take what comes up for me. Like, someone's like, oh, I need help doing this, or I need help. I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. And so the downside is it's not super consistent, but the upside is I'm always, it's always interesting to me. I'm rarely ever bored with what I have to do with my career. So it's like, okay, I want to write this book, and like, let's get this out of me. And like, what do I need to do to do that? And so, yes, Hawaii, another long answer to your question.
Yeah, no, but actually I like what you said exactly about, you know, I think especially at least here in the US, we're programmed, or a lot of us, to do one thing, one career, one thing. And if you're not, you're kind of weird. And of course, for entrepreneurs, people that just have a versatility of interests, you know, that doesn't serve them. And so again, I think there are probably people out there that are listening and say, yeah, you know, I've always felt like, you know, I do, you know, I'm an engineer, but I like to write poetry or whatever. But a lot of people say, well, those don't go together. No, it's whatever you create, your life to
Yeah.
be. And that's all of us, because all of us kind of hold ourselves back, I think, from just expressing what we want to do and what we know nurtures our soul.
Yeah, and you don't have to like monetize your every passion either.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's also one thing that I'm coming out of, like that desire to have to monetize every single one of my passions, mixed with, also it's okay to work that's not necessarily your passion. Like I have work that I'm like, and I consider a passion like something that you have to do. Like if you don't do it, you'll die. Like you have to sing, or you have to write, or you have to whatever. Like your passion and your creativity are very much in alignment. So it's also very okay. And I learned this lesson from Elizabeth Gilbert in Big Magic. Have you read that book, Big Magic?
No, I haven't.
It's a really great book. And her story about taking, 10 plus 15 years before she was actually able to have writing be her full-time career, meaning she made enough, because of her writing to support herself. And she said she made a deal with her creativity that she never asked her creativity to support her, meaning her life and her, but like she always was like, I will support you in this relationship with her creativity. Yeah. So I also appreciate that side of it as well. And she has a TEDx talk as well about following your curiosity and letting go of this notion that you have to like be in, like your job has to be your passion. And it's okay to just follow your creativity and be working and supporting yourself. And, right now we live in this construct and paradigm where it's like a money matrix, where it's like, okay, I have to keep the lights on and and that's definitely been my journey as well. Like being an entrepreneur and like wading those waters of having a full-time job and then letting go of the full-time job and then focusing on this, food truck stuff. And I'm like right now, like letting go of a lot of my food truck business and moving more into consulting and coaching and all that stuff. And so I'm constantly in that space of, allowing the creativity, allowing the possibility of a passion to fully support me. And it's totally okay if I go and do this, because what's really important for us as a human species is to provide that service to someone else. Like, am I being of service to you? Period. No matter what it is I'm doing. And am I bringing my best, happiest, most bubbly, joyous version of myself to whatever it is I'm doing, and not making whatever it is I'm doing wrong or not good enough. It reminds me of this verse of whatsoever you do not unto man, but unto the Lord. Now, the Lord, in my mind, in that Bible verse, is the law of attraction, or the law of, reaping what you sow. So like one time that there was this Southwest flight attendant dude, and he was just like checking people in and scanning people in, and he was having a good old time. He was like, check it in. I mean, and like he was having a good old time, and like everybody in the like the impact of that made on me, I can't even speak to what it made. Like what I saw and what I observed was like that line was a happier place. Yeah. And I understood like, hey, it doesn't matter what you do, like this whole American construct, like that we have to have the perfect career. We have to be in, it doesn't, like that can actually keep me or keep you in thinking that you should be doing something else, or that the answer is over there. I just need a different career. I just like keep me from being that happy checker outer dude. Like, what would it look like to my clients, no matter what it is I do, if I can bring the fullness of who I am, the authenticity of who I am? I tell a lot of people with my restaurant clients, like, oh, I'm just queer eye for the restaurant guy, for lack of better words. I just help you with branding and design and like help you open a restaurant. What do you need? Like all the things. And I kind of out myself right away, just in case there's any mystery. But it really I hold the space for them to be themselves by me giving myself the freedom and permission to just be myself, no matter what it is I'm doing. So kind of wading those waters of, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like my career, everything is perfect. And we're always coming into more alignment. There are, we're in this interesting, I call it the liminal space. It's kind of like this in-between space. A lot of us are in this in-between space where it's like we're working and doing this thing, and then we're also moving towards this, and we're evolving towards. And I see this in my own journey as I come into sobriety. That's a new thing. I'm coming up on 2 years of alcohol free, moving into a plant-based diet. And so like evolving into that space and looking at the different environmental impacts that, consuming plants versus animals has. I mean, those two things alone are new passions of mine. They're new awarenesses of mine. They're new things I care about. And that those weren't even there like 3 or 4 years ago. Sure. And so I'm like, I'm going to start talking about that. Does that mean I need to have a business about it? I don't know. Maybe not. Who knows? Today, I'm going to talk to Mark.
Yeah, exactly. let it go where it may or not, whatever is fine. Yeah. I think that's so important because like I said, you said earlier in our conversation, you've moved around a lot in your life. I have too, relative to most people in the US, at least. I know in other parts of the world or sometimes not. I was in Indonesia about coming up on 3 years ago. I was in a small town on the eastern coast. And I was at a very small, modest inn for 3 days. I got invited out there, beautiful water palace. Anyway, and the innkeeper was probably now in his 60s. He'd been working there over 40 years. Lived in the same town.
40 years?
Yeah, in that same small inn in different capacities. Now it's like the manager. And I went, whoa. That was a moment I realized that, wow, my life has been very different. And it is what it is, but not typical. I think a lot of people here in the US, for the most part, don't move around as much. I've moved around probably like in my life about 12 times. And that's more than most, at least in the US.
Yeah, last time I counted, I had 22 residences in my 43 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And also what you said back about the home, I'm down here in Texas right now.
Yeah.
Down here with a family home. At the same time, I've lived so many places. People ask me when they ask that question, either in English, "Donde eres?" Where are you from? I go, really many places. I lived in Taiwan. Yeah. So it creates a different perspective on the world, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. If anyone is just jumping in, we're having a conversation with Case Erickson today. And if you have any questions for Case about living your best authentic life, moving through your fear, please post it. Or just if you want to let us know where you're viewing from today, please jump on in. So, so you were mentioning, we're living in this very interesting, energetic moment right now. Like you said, some ways we're doing things we were doing in the quote unquote past and moving on to new things. With your clients, whatever segment, because I know you work with different communities, what are you seeing some of their biggest challenges on their plate, or why are they seeking your help? Like, because you do coaching, life coaching, and all that stuff.
So a lot of my personal clients is a lot in the health and wellness, sobriety, staying accountable to, living life alcohol free.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just, it's kind of like any coach or trainer. It's not about me necessarily telling you what you don't already know versus being there to hold the space for accountability and discipline. And there's something that comes from, I was just telling one of my friends this a couple days ago. There's something that comes from investing in yourself, whatever it is, investing in your goal. Like you want to get to a goal, you want to lose 10 pounds, or you want to make it 30 days with no alcohol, whatever your goal is.
Yeah.
If you say it, that's, certainly one level and one degree of commitment. You're going to get results from that. But something also takes place if there's any kind of energetic exchange through money. Like money to me is an energetic exchange. So someone's like, I want to get here. Here's my $1,000 or whatever it is. They're going to be like more serious about it. They're going to show up to the gym if they've invested in a trainer, and it's going to push them. That's going to push them. That's just kind of the functionality of money. So my personal clients are in that space. My business clients are more in the space of, wanting to reach a monetary goal. And I bring the authenticity conversation into business, with, okay, how are you connecting to yourself? Because that's going to push out into how you're connecting with your customers as well as your employees. And so if you're fully connected with yourself, then you're going to have more, you're going to be willing to take on those conversations that you don't think you need to take on. You're going to screen your employees more effectively because you're going to be more in alignment with who you are and what you want. And then you're going to be able to weed through and weed out the people who aren't. Everyone who comes into your space is going to be a reflection of that. So I really love talking to businesses when they're in the beginning of their business or they're taking on, should I do this or should I do that? Like, where do I want to do and all this? And like, okay, if you do this, then that means your life is going to look like that versus, like, okay, don't do this or do this or, finding that clarity or getting that clarity on really what you want to create in the world. Because that impacts everything. So branding and design, certainly. I mean, I went to school for advertising design and, got the queer eye for the whoever guy. And so, that a lot, I do a lot of design work and branding and messaging and content. But it all goes back to like, who are you, how you want to create, who do you want to connect with, what customers you want to create? Like, what are you putting out into the world? Because what you put out into the world is just like a little magnet. And so marketing is a magnet, is like your images you use, your content you use, what your website looks like, all of it is putting the net out there and saying, this is who you are. And, so I help them in that, whether that's, through web design or marketing messaging or branding, or, some client came to me, they didn't even have a name for their business. So I helped them mind map and do all the things to get a brand name that was authentic to who they were and what they wanted to put out in the world and the community that they wanted to build. Community with their employees and community with their customers. And Dave, I worked with them for over a year, helped them open their restaurant. And now they've been open since like November. And now, I'm kind of like their rent-a partner, for lack of better words. Because, having opened my own restaurants and run my own restaurants, I definitely understand the industry. So I've picked up shifts for them in the store, like covered manager shifts. I'm going to LA in 2 days to pick up some exotic vegan cheese that doesn't ship anywhere. And so they're like flying me to LA to go pick it up. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. But I also manage their social media and I take photos for them. I do their PR. So I connect them to different television opportunities. They're a plant-based. They got me into the whole plant-based thing. And so I'm getting all into that. I don't know if you did you watch the Oscars?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either, but I saw Joaquin Phoenix's. He's a big advocate. He narrated the show Earthlings. Very, very powerful advocate for plant-based. He got the Golden Globes to go plant-based for their meals. And he spoke out against the dairy industry, which was just like, whoa. But really, really. Anyway, so, I'm helping them. And that's kind of morphed and evolved. And the whole LA thing just happened like 2 or 3 days ago when I was kind of getting ready for a Girl Scout cookie and whiskey pairing event, ironically. I'm like, don't drink, but buy my shit. No, but I was doing promotions for a local distillery here in town. But he's family. It's a gay-owned business. So, I mean, it's kind of like, how can you promote whiskey? I'm like, no, like I see, like, I want to support your business. Like my convictions aren't necessarily your convictions. I don't, I'm not going to proselytize and evangelize my standpoint and make everyone else wrong just because I'm like sober, plant-based, whatever. Like, cause if, like I can, if I make my stance and my belief and my whatever a religion in my mind is anything that makes me right and you wrong. And so that is what I'm here to overcome, the religious mindset, the mindset that says there's one, like my one way is the one way. My God is the one God and everyone else's God is not the God. And I'm right and you're wrong. And we're going to fight to the death about it. No, we're not going to fight to the death about it. I believe that peace is possible, that the more people that talk about this reality of personal responsibility, taking personal responsibility for my own internal vibration, my own peace, my own transformation. I let other people off the hook. I forgive. I move into the space of unconditional love. Drop the judgment of my present moment. Drop the resistance. Drop this notion and this construct of right and wrong. Like, the impact that that has on myself and my personal relationships and the actions that I do, the conversations that I have, the books that I write, whatever, as I do my own personal part, and you do your personal part, and then they do, and then they do, and then they do, and then they do, and then everybody does, that creates what I call the tipping point of transformation. The tipping point of transformation, which means that the normal way of being for humans is the agreement that we're not going to kill ourselves or kill each other. Like, we take killing off the table. I'm not saying, like, that is my belief that that is possible when I think of world peace. Now, that doesn't mean conflict free. Like, I don't personally feel like we will ever live in a world free of conflict. Right. But just because we have conflict does not necessarily mean that peace is not possible. I believe that peace is possible, and I believe that we will, like war, we can eradicate war, take killing ourselves and each other off the table by peaceful conflict resolution. And that starts with resolving the conflict within ourselves.
Yep. Yeah. So, like, you know, and I agree, you know, and many people have said this, you know, kind of our outer world is a reflection of our inner world. You know, I see this a lot with, you know, a lot of the people that listen to the show or are live or on replay, you know, or in the spiritual space, energy healers that you were talking about marketing. You know, I was just having a conversation, you know, how do we get out our message, you know, about what we do, how we can serve people.
Yeah.
I don't know if, you know, I know since you're, again, in many circles, if you had to give like one or two tips to people that are looking to just, you know, share that message, what are you finding right now in 2020 is the most effective way, at least to start that? I know it's not an overnight thing, but for like spiritual coaches, life coaches that are looking to, you know, grow their business, get out their message, and show how they can serve people.
The thing that's coming up for me is just consistency. So being consistent with all of the channels. You know, we don't necessarily have this luxury of, you know, just utilizing one thing. So, you know, being consistent with your messaging and pushing it out through all the channels, the main channels, social media, Instagram, Facebook, but not neglecting web and blog and content development. So being consistent with the deployment of your content, and then also, you know, being of service. And I think that a lot of people in the energy healing space are really good at, you know, being of service. And so just staying in that space to, I'll say, the strangers or the prospects, people who aren't clients. So how can you serve by providing free digital content and things that will be of service without sacrificing your own personal energetic exchange rate? You know, like, don't give away the farm, you know, don't, you know, and I've come into this my own self and gotten a lot of my own content on digitally, like, because I was, you know, a lot of people were like, hey, I want to open a food truck, or hey, I want to do this. And I was just like, I'd get on the phone because I want them to be successful. Yeah. And I want them to know. And so finally I was like, oh my gosh, I got to record this and I got to put this online. So like the next time somebody wants this from me, because I mean, I was like, I didn't want to invest any more of my own personal energy, even though my heart was coming from the right space, it was still depleting me. And so, you know, making sure you have enough of content that's giving of service, being of service to your community. Yeah. You know, I guess I would say defining your community and who you want to serve and help. And then, you know, being of service to that community with your prospect community, with your free digital stuff. And then, you know, obviously having structured programs and platforms. And I mean, it's a whole thing. But, you know, that's just what's coming up for me and what people can focus on.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah. So is there any like process you'd like to lead us through about, or share some aspect that you include in your book that you think just give people a taste of like what they might find in your book, or like that kind of like for self-care, daily self-care? Because I know you mentioned at the end of each chapter you have like a little practice or like brief process you'd like to lead us through.
Oh, breath work is big, and that's something I don't necessarily. It's hard to describe over in writing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, go here, breath of fire, do the breath work and the breath of fire. Are you familiar with breath of fire?
No, I'm not. Tell me more.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, it's usually a series of at least. Well, it depends on what someone can tolerate, but it's kind of like it's in through your nose and out through your mouth, and it's a lot of diaphragm work, and it's a lot of like you're pushing it out, and it's just very like it's a lot of in and out with your diaphragm, and you over oxygenate your cells that way, and it moves a lot of energy, and you're kind of. I believe that a lot of our angst, I'll call it, so energetic angst, whether that's anxiety or fear, whatever, it shows up and our body kind of traps it. So I believe that we can move this angst physically through breath work, yoga movements, poses, and meditation. Those three things are physical things that we can do. So even though our thoughts might say, whatever they say, the negative self-talk, the suicidal ideations, the I can't do it, the whatever it is, like when we start believing those thoughts, that turns into fear, anxiety, stress, and that energetically keeps us out of that flow. So I believe we can move ourselves, we can move that energy first and be in action around that first, even though our thoughts might say like, I don't feel like it, I don't want to do this, I don't want to whatever. There's a really good, I don't know who the TEDx speaker was, but they did it on body language with the hero's pose. Mm-hmm. Holding this pose for at least 2 minutes. Yeah. Even though you don't feel like it, literally moves like you just move, like it just moves, like it enables you stand up straighter and you do that. So I have a series of things that I do. Like it's just like, okay, and the deep breathing, the breath of fire is definitely one. Wim Hof has another one that's 20 breaths of just like just letting it out as opposed to a forced system. But those things in and of themselves, and then the Tibetan 5 rites. Have you heard of the 5 rites of rejuvenation?
Tell me more.
Those are really, really good. I did those this morning. I try and do them every day. I don't always hit it, but usually I'm at least 5 times a week. A series of, and I can post a link of it, but a series of poses that move the energetic vortices that we are a part of, like that we get connected to, like, and we enable our connection to these energetic vortices by yoga, by movement, by certain series of poses. And it really like kind of gets our bodies out, energetically, because our auras extend past our bodies, or, so our thoughts can keep us trapped. So I'm a big proponent of being in action and moving that. And it's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And like, just moving our bodies is a big one. And I go into that a little bit with some of the practices in the book. But that's definitely one that's more like live action that I can talk about and explain a little bit and show the arms and all that. So if anybody has any kind of like feeling like constricted in any way, shape, or form, which I think fear is a constrictor, and we are here to expand and look at how we can expand and grow and connect, do that physically first, the hero's pose, the breath of fire, and the 5 rites of rejuvenation. And that really, really is just like, kind of gets you in the zone. It gets me in the zone of like action, but then also not like a fighting kind of action. It's a connected action, and it's what I call like an inspired action. The distinction between inspiration and motivation. Inspiration is like that intrinsic. Motivation is like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it can get tiring. And so we're here to be inspired, to inspire ourselves and inspire others. So that's the kind of the action and feeling that I like to get into.
Sure. let's see, we have a question from Ellie Rad. What is that called again? I think one of the practices you mentioned.
The 5 rites of rejuvenation. Rites, RITES.
Yeah.
5 rites of rejuvenation. And it's an ancient Tibetan practice. And my father actually gave me this little pamphlet that was written in the 40s. And I was like, why is he talking about? It talks about, a lot of like Qi, and if you're into Qigong or anything like that.
Yeah.
Qigong is another great one. I don't do an active Qigong practice as much as I think that I would like, but I've been getting more into it.
Yeah.
Just kind of like really moving the energy. And that's another really active thing that we can do to get connected.
Great.
But I don't know if that's what Ellie was talking about.
Yeah, she wrote back and said, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. Yeah. So, as we get ready to close out this episode, is there any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with today about everything we shared today, especially you?
The only thing that's coming up for me is, be yourself before you wreck yourself. Really just look at the impact of not being yourself is kind of a wreck. And I didn't even go into like being married to a woman for 14 years and my substance abuse and my abuse with food and, losing 40 pounds and getting sober and all that other stuff. I was definitely on this road of wrecking myself. And so I was not being myself. So being myself has come into all sorts of roads and outlets and avenues, but definitely if you can just take that on as a possibility, as you're committed to be yourself, and then everything else will work out. If anybody also, what's coming up for me, my book and all that is on Amazon, coming out by going in.
Show it again to those that
or caseerickson.com. There's a link to it, Case Erickson, CASEERICKS1. Definitely, I would be honored if anybody would want to take part in that process. But yeah, that's about it for me.
And so if they want to follow up, the best site is a way to connect with you through your website or Facebook. What's
all the things? I'm at caseerickson.com, Instagram at Case Erickson, Facebook at Case Erickson.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, great. Well, Case, again, thank you for our conversation this morning. And I'd like to thank you for being my guest and those that are seeing it live on replay. The People and Pets Show, we go live every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I interview people in the holistic space, either for people, animals, or sometimes spaces. And join us next week as we have another special guest. I'll be announcing that individual very soon, the next day. And again, if there's anything I can help you with, feel free to reach out with me to me at my website, peopleandpetsenergetics.com, or my Facebook business page, People and Pets Energetics. Again, thank you, Case, for being my guest this morning. Thank you all again. And everyone, please make sure you love and like this. If you're seeing it on Facebook, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the People and Pets Facebook page, or if you're seeing this on replay on YouTube, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the People and Pets channel. Again, thank you, everyone, and we'll be in touch real soon. All right.
All right. Good catching up. Say bye, Skitty.
Bye.